Okay, so again, the intention is just to see how we can add Express to this project, so we can have a sense of how we can get to this situation where we have an application connected to a database. All right, we can submit a form and we get that data from that request, and then we store it somewhere in a database. All right. So this is the intention. So does that sound all right? Does it make sense what we're going to do? Does it? I imagine it's going to. Yeah. Okay. A couple of thumbs up. This is all what you'll be doing in just seconds. I'm trying to make sure that this is something that you can think about. So let's just double check where we were from this morning. I've got nothing currently in this database, but I've got a table with those columns all set up from running this command. So that's all ready for me. I have a table. And I guess the first step here is to install a bunch of dependencies, remembering that we need to use Express for our web framework. So let's go ahead and add Express and EJS to our project. And we can see that has added here. And I'm going to move this down the page. I'm not going to worry about this for the moment. Okay, so I might have to look at the documentation of this. We've got to require Express, and then we have to create our Express app. We have to be explicit about the port that we need. We're going to be using EJS, so we're going to have to do something like set the view engine to be EJS, and then we also want to make sure we can pass request body like form data. So something like this, but we also pass it by default. I think it's something like this. I might have to check this. And then we want to, I'm going to move this up to the const declarations up here. And then we want to run our app. It's in a port, and then a callback function that does something like console.log listening on whatever port. So this is I guess we'll run this in a second. I also want to install no daemon because I don't like having to always kill my server and start it again. So let's run it like that. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to be able to show, let's write a get root, request, a response in this callback. Request and response, I want to render a view, and we'll have a look at what this looks like in a second, index, but here is where I want to show all my cats. Go away. So this is the purpose, and then at some point I'm also going to write a post route where I want to create a new cat record in my table. And here I guess we can just redirect back to the index. So this is, why do I got this as well? Because I copied that. So this is what I'm trying to do, all right? I want to have one route where I show all my cats, and I want to have a post route that will create a cat, all right? I'm going to actually use the same URL here just because we're dealing with cats, we might as well be descriptive about what's going on. So far, this is my intention, all right? This hopefully will look similar to everyone who's watching. We've been able to create get routes before and post routes. I've got to go back to my view and make sure I have views that can do these things. But this shouldn't be new. The new part will be how we go into the database and get things, all right? Beforehand, you were doing something like taking that data and storing it in the request app locals, all right? You were adding stuff here, all right, in order to persist data. So rather than this approach, we want to store it in our database. So let's have a look at the index page. I've got to create a view folder and then add here some index file. Where is it? Where'd it go? I'll do it. Index.ejs, please. There you are. So let's think about this. What's going to go here? If I go back to my app.js, what I want to do is find a way to get data from my table and pass it in as local variables to my view. And we'll have something like this. All right, this I want to be an array, as if we did like a find all, a select query that returns back a list of all of our cats. So like we did down here, when I do a find all, I will get back an array of cat objects where I can sort of like look at individual cats. So I'm going to at some point store the result of this in the variable cats and then pass it to my my index view. So here is where I want to loop through an array and show it on the page. So this is quite a typical thing to be able to do, loop through a list of items and display each of them on the page. If you think about posts on a wall or anything that like a to-do list, you loop through a list of items and you can display them on the page. So we need to be able to embed JavaScript into the HTML. So what we're going to do is use our embedded JavaScript tags like so to get that list, that array of cats and loop through it. And we'll take each individual cat and we have to make sure each line has its own set of embedded JavaScript tags. And then for each cat, I want to display something. Currently, I have in my database, what does it look like? Name, breed, and owner. So let's do something like 1, 2, 3. This will be like cat name. This will be cat breed, and this will be the cat owner. So this will be the object that represents the record in my table, and I want to pull out the properties. These will be the column fields, the column names. So let's do something like a little bit more descriptive about it, maybe cat name, breed. And this will be owner. I guess this needs to be all closed properly. So I'm going to loop through my cats, and notice there are 2 types of tags here. This kind of tag doesn't show up on the page, it won't print, but this will, all right, this evaluates and also prints. So we actually see what this looks like. So I want to render it. So the next part is just how do we get at the cats? Well, we've done this query before. And the only difference is because it's an asynchronous call, all of our queries, our Sequelize queries, are asynchronous. So if you want to make sure the order of these things is correct, you want to get information from our database and then render a view. We have to show that this function is asynchronous by adding async. And storing the results in an awaited promise. So we can do something like models, because we have access to models up here. Models, we get the cat, and then we execute our find all. We don't need to pass any particular condition because I don't care about whose owner it is. I just want to find all the data in the table. So this will say we won't move on until this promise has been resolved, and so we'll get the data back. We'll store it in this const variable cats, and then we'll pass it to my view. I guess we don't really need that on different lines because there's only one item here. So that might be enough for now. I'm going to run the app and see how far I get just by this. Navigating to /cats and see whether I can pull any information out from my table. There's nothing in my table at the moment, so we'll hopefully see just a blank page with no errors, and then we'll see whether we can create a form that will submit some data. So let's use to run my app. Listening on 3000, thank you very much. Close 3000 /cats. Okay, empty page, nice. So far so good. There's nothing on here. I can add a quick message if you wanted to make sure we're seeing something. And so we're navigating to the right view, but clearly there's nothing in our table at the moment. So let's add a form here so we can submit some data and then take that data and store it in our table. So I want to post to /cats, and it's post, good, input. I'm going to the text input. The name is going to be, let's start off with name, because we need name, breed, and owner. We don't want a value, but we could use a placeholder so we know which is which. This will be name. This will be breed, and this will be owner. Breed and owner. And then we need a submit button to actually execute the request. We don't need a name for it. We do need a value. So let's go something like create cat. It's got to be capital letters. It feels important. Thanks for the smile. Whoever's smiling over there. Okay, so let's have a look at what's on the page. Name, breed, and owner. So what I'm trying to do is use this form to send a request with form data, 3 bits of form data, name, breed, and owner, that my app is going to, in this post route, handle. It will take that data from the request and then execute a Sequelize query, a create query, to store that data in a table. So let's have a look at how this would work. So in the same way, I'm going to make sure I don't redirect until the command is completed. So let's do await models cat create, and then pass in an object of property key value pairs of which the properties relate to the column name. So it's going to be a name, and I'm going to take it from the request body. And breed, I'm going to take it from the request body. And odor, I'm also going to take it from the request body. So I can, if I manage to get this line correct, I can't remember if that's correct or not, it should be able to take that request body, parse it so I can access it using .name, .breed, .owner, and I pass this all to the create command for Sequelize to then form the insert command to send to the database to insert into my table. So, and then after that, it will redirect back to the index, or actually it'll go back to cats. That's what I wanted to do. Go back to cats, and then make another query to get all that data from the table and show it on the page. So let's have a look. Something I need to make sure it's an async function. Okay, so is anyone a cat owner in the building, in the virtual building? Anyone own a cat?
Yeah.
Ben?
Yeah.
Okay, let's start off with Ben. What's the name of your cat?
Maya, M-A-I-A.
M-A-I-A. Breed?
Cat.
Okay, let's create the cat. And you can see that the information now pops up onto the page. Let's go have a check out our database. You can see in the server logs, this was the first query. When we navigated it, there was nothing on the page. And then we we asked Sequelize to insert into our cats table. And then we fetch the information back out as it redirected back to the get root. All right. So in our database, we now see it here. Let's do one more. Was it Bridget or Ramiro? Who was next as a cat owner?
I got one.
All right, you got one.
Milo.
Oh, cats beginning with M. Ramiro, name is Milo, and the breed is?
Red and white.
You have just no idea what breeds of cats. Okay, me neither really. I have no idea what it was. Anyway, let's try. Cool. So now we see both of the cats on the page, and so this is trying to demonstrate how you might go ahead and build out your bookmark manager, thinking about the things we've done so far this morning and last week using Express. The couple differences here are making sure that any function that executes any asynchronous functions, you need to make sure you label it as such with an async keyword, and then you await the result. And it's important because we only want to render, we want to send back a response after we've got the data back. All right. Cool. Anything else that I wanted to talk about, demonstrate right now? We actually don't need Sequelize up here at the moment, so that came from before. I guess if we wanted to be nicer about it, we could maybe do something like this, and then we wouldn't have to always use models. The next part after this, as we were doing at the end of last week, we're going to organize these back into routers, specifically for certain parts of our application. But just for probably the first part of this week, keep everything in the app.js file. and don't complicate your life at the moment by trying to extract them into routers. We will cover that later this week. All right. So keep everything quite simple in one controller file. What else did I want to say about this? I did create a directory, not a file. Let's do that. So I'll stop the demonstration there. When you pair up, which we'll talk about tomorrow morning, how this afternoon session goes. But the first step to start things off will be to get into your pairs and just go through a process where you diagram what you want to happen for this first part. So let's go to the project so we can have a look at the requirements. Bookmark manager. Okay, so these were the first two things that I sort of demonstrated, not using bookmarks, but just using a cat as the domain. All right, so take these first two requirements and draw out with each other what you want that first page to look like. What do you want your sort of form to look like, and how do you want your results to be displayed? Draw it out, and so you have a sense of what needs to happen, and then go through a typical interaction of adding in data into your form, clicking submit, whatever button you have, and then seeing the result on the page. Go through that process so you're both clear on what you need to happen, and then you codify that in a Cypress test. All right. So I fully expect everyone to be test driving this using Cypress. Now what's going to end up happening is you're going to end up having a database table full of cats, because every time you run your tests, you're going to be adding data to your table. And that's okay for today. Tomorrow morning, we'll look at how we can make sure that doesn't happen. But you will be ending up having lots of data, maybe duplicates of data in your table, but don't worry about it for the moment. All right. Go through and write your feature test, and think about the things I've just demonstrated. I'll upload this to YouTube so you can watch this back as well. All right. Any thoughts or questions based on this demo before I run the pairing system to find out who the next pairs are?